Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Damodar Ki Jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi Haribo. Jai Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Vivajakacharya Stotra Satashi Srimad Svangira Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Vivajakacharya Stotra Satashi Srimad Svangira Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Thakur Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. So fortunate we get to read Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the king of books. And today we'll be reading from the 6th canto, chapter 10, the battle between the demigods and Vritrasura. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam? What? Oh, I already said. Yeah, 6th canto, chapter 10, text number, quite a few. Starting from text 17, I think we're getting into the juicy fight scenes. I guess I'll do the Sanskrit and the English, if that's all right. We'll skip the word-for-word translation, except for the verse with the purport. Rudrair Vasubir Adityair Ashvibhyam Pitrivanibhi Marudbir Ribhubhi Sadhyair Vishvedevhair Marutpatim Drishvavadra Dharam Shakram Rochamanam Svayashriya Namrishyan Asura Rajan Mride Vritra Pura Saraha. O king, when all the Asuras came onto the battlefield, headed by Vritrasura, they saw King Indra carrying the thunderbolt and surrounded by the Rudras, Vasus, Adityas, Ashwini Kumaras, Pitas, Vanis, Maruts, Ribus, Sadyas, Vishvadevas, and Vishvadevas. Surrounded by his company, Indra shone so brightly that his effulgence was intolerable to the demons. Next verses, 19 to 22. Namuchi Shambaro Narva, Dvimurdha Rishabosara, Hayagriva Shankushira, Viprachitir Ayomuka, Paloma Vishraparvacha, Prahetir Hetir Utkalaha, Daiteya Danava Yaksha, Rakshamsi Cha Sahasrashaha, Sumali Mali Pramukaha, Kartasvara Parichadaha, Pratisidhyendra Senagram Mrityur Api Durasadam, Abhyardhayan asambrantaha singhanadena durmadha gadabhi parighayar bhanahai prasa mudgara tomarahai. Many hundreds and thousands of demons, demi-demons, yakshas, rakshasas, man-eaters, and others, headed by Sumali and Mali, resisted the armies of King Indra, which even death personified cannot easily overcome. Among the demons were Namuchi, Shambhara, Anarva, Dvimurdha, Rishabha, Asura, Hayagriva, Sankushira, Viprachiti, Ayomukha, Paloma, Vishraparva, Praheti, Heti, and Utkala. Roaring tumultuously and fearlessly like lions, these invincible demons, all dressed in golden ornaments, gave pain to the demigods with weapons like clubs, bludgeons, arrows, barbed darts, mallets, and lances. Krishna. So even demons can be named Hayagriva. Just because you're named after the Lord doesn't mean we're automatically divine. Text 23 says, Shulai parashvadhai kadgai shatagni bhir bushundibihi sarvato vakiran shastrair astraischa vibudar shabhan. Armed with lances, tridents, axes, swords, and other weapons, like shatagnis and bushundis, the demons attacked from different directions and scattered all the chiefs of the demigod armies. Does anybody know what shatagnis and bushundis are? Drop it in the chat and win a prize. Text number 24 says, Na te drishyanta sanchanaha sharat jalai samantataha punkunu punkanu punka patitair jyotink shiva nabho ganahai. As the stars in the sky cannot be seen when covered by dense clouds, the demigods, being completely covered by networks of arrows falling upon them one after another, could not be seen. Text number 25. Na te shastrastra varshaugha hya sedhu sura sainikan china siddhapate devair lagu hastai sahasrada. The showers of various weapons and arrows released to kill the soldiers of the demigods did not reach them, because the demigods, acting quickly, cut the weapons into thousands of pieces in the sky. That is so cool. Text number 26. Ataksinastra shastraugha girishunga drumopalai abhyavarshan surabhalam chichidus tamscha purvavat. Shastra means a weapon, by the way. We have the Shastra, of course, the scripture, but it's also weapons. As their weapons and mantras decreased, the demons began showering mountain peaks, trees, and stones upon the demigod soldiers. But the demigods were so powerful and expert that they nullified all these weapons by breaking them to pieces in the sky as before. And we get a very clear image here that the demons are outmatched and outgunned. They've gone so desperate after throwing all of their weapons. Now they're literally just throwing rocks, trees, whatever they can find. And but the demigods literally just slicing it up. Whatever projectiles are coming their way, they're just intercepting them within the sky and just taking them out immediately. So not much of a fight so far. Text number 27. Tan akshatan svastimato nishamya shastrastra pughair atavritranataha drumayr drishadbi vividhadri shringair avikshatam statrasur indra sainikan. When the soldiers of the demons, commanded by Vritrasura, saw that the soldiers of King Indra were quite well, having not been injured at all by their volleys of weapons, not even by the trees, stones, and mountain peaks, the demons were very much afraid. text 28, which has a purport. So we'll do the word-for-word translation as well. Sarve prayasa abhavan vimogaha krita deva ganeshu daityata. Krita deva ganeshu daityaha Krishnanukuleshu yata mahatsu kshudrai prayukta ushati ruksha vachaha. Word-for-word translation says, Sarve, all, prayashaha, endeavors, abhavan, were, vimogaha, futile. It's a great word. Kritaha, performed. Kritaha, again performed. Deva Ganeshu, unto the demigods. Daityai, by the demons. Krishna Anukuleshu, who were always protected by Krishna. Yata, just as. Mahatsu, unto the Vaishnavas. Kshudrai, by insignificant persons. Prayukta, used. Ushatihi, unfavorable. Ruksha, rough. Vacha, words. Rough words. India Prabhu's trying to stay alive here. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When insignificant persons use rough words to cast false, angry accusations against saintly persons, their fruitless words do not disturb the great personalities. Similarly, all the efforts of the demons against the demigods, who were favorably situated under the protection of Krishna, were futile. Purport. There is a Bengali saying that if a vulture curses a cow to die, the curse will not be effective. Similarly, accusations made by demoniac persons against devotees of Krishna cannot have any effect. The demigods are devotees of Lord Krishna, and therefore the curses of the demons were futile. It's a short purport, but it's all you need to know. Them's the facts. So, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Jnanatimandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamahyam Tadati Swaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Scham Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Cha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So as we're hearing in the ongoing drama between King Indra and his posse and Vritrasura and his followers, at this point in the battle, the demons are not doing well. The demigods are doing very well because they are Krishna Anukuleshu, which is our aspiration. Krishna Anukuleshu. Even just the sound of it is something so extraordinary. Krishna Anukuleshu, to be protected by Krishna, be under Krishna's shelter. And really it's a huge part of the whole seventh canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which shows that Actually, the Lord is equal to everyone, but because the demigods take shelter of Krishna, they are victorious again and again and again. It's not that Krishna has some, I don't know, some sort of petty, selfish bias, right? He says quite the opposite in Bhagavad Gita. Samaham sarva bhuteshu na me dveshyasti na priya. But he says, I don't envy anyone or favor any particular person, but someone who approaches me as a friend will be treated as a friend. And as a devotee, well, I'll be devoted to them as well. Because that's how relationships work. And this is very important for us to wrap our head around. God is not a machine. It's not just some Aristotelian first mover. It's not just some cause of all causes, not just some philosophical necessity. But the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is a little boy named Krishna, and naturally reciprocates. And it shouldn't be so surprising, since that is the most important thing to us: reciprocation, expression of relationship and devotion. And it exists in the absolute truth just as it exists in us. As it says in the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, whatever is here in the effect is also there in the cause, but in perfection. So here in the effect, this material universe as we know it, we see that actually the most important thing is our personal relationships. It's not all the stuff. Your stuff comes and goes. But the most important thing is the personal relationship. And so it exists there in the absolute truth, the cause of all causes. And this is how Krishna expresses it. As the creator of everything, he is equal to everybody. Right? Queen Kunti says, Samam charantam savatra. You're equal to all living beings. Bhutanam yanmita kali. Their different statuses in life is due to their own interactions. All the living entities. Some are higher, some are lower, some are doing great, some are doing poorly. Queen Kunti says, Samam charantam sarvatra. You're actually equal to everybody as the creator, maintainer, provider of everything. Right? Just like a father naturally provides for everybody in the family, or mother, of course. The parents provide for all the children. But sometimes some of the children are really reciprocating. Some of the other children might take a little while to come around. But that doesn't mean that the parents don't provide whatever they can. So in this way, Krishna is equal to everyone. But he's also Supreme Person. And he loves love. Just like we do. And so those who take shelter of him are protected by him, and their lives are enlivened. And that's really what's going on, actually, in this battle. It's a pretty extreme example of it. But yes, the demigods are protected by the Lord because they are pious, they are devoted, they are Vaishnavas, they're servants. And so they'll be victorious. Let us not treat Krishna like some sort of vending machine, like he's supposed to just give me what I want because I've pressed all the right buttons, I've done all the right rituals. No, he reciprocates with moods of devotion that any devotee can experience. They really put their heart into expressing some love for Krishna with real devotion. You can see the Lord's reciprocation in amazing, powerful ways. So, we have to understand Krishna's twofold quality. Yes, he's the creator of everything. The samam bonam, as Prabhupada would say. Sarvakarana karanam, the cause of all causes, and therefore equal to everyone. But he's also Krishna Anukulesh. He gives shelter and protection to his dearmost devotees. He's also inclined to them. Paritranaya sadhunam. He wants to give them his association, his protection. Krishna can do both. We can only handle one emotion at a time, but Krishna can handle all of these things. Hare Krishna. But actually, what I really want to talk about is this nice analogy being used in this verse here, and in Prabhupada's short but sweet purport, that when insignificant persons use rough words to cast false, angry accusations against saintly persons, their fruitless words do not disturb the great personalities. This is an important lesson about the austerity of speech. And as Prabhupada elaborates further, the Bengali saying that if a vulture curses a cow to die. I like that analogy because, of course, the vulture wants to eat the cow. So the vulture can sit there on a branch in a tree and say, "Cow, you should die so I can eat you." But the vulture's selfish and even malicious intent makes its curse futile. This is a very interesting thing to understand about speech. I'm going to say a couple of things about speech, if that's all right. Starting first with curses and benedictions. I got a great note somewhere. Hold on. Nope. Where did I save that? It's a great quote from Nanda Maharaj, actually. Here we go. It's because the vulture has a malicious intent, a selfish desire, that actually their words are futile. Vimoga, as it says here. Vimoga, futile. And plenty of us have experienced firsthand how angry words spoken with malicious intent are really futile. It just damages ourselves more than it does anything practical in this world. And that indicates that actually the reverse is also true. For someone whose heart is very pure, who's free from envy, and whose desires to serve the Lord, the words that they speak can actually affect the environment and create benediction, which in Sanskrit would be ashirvad, which is literally like a Latin to Sanskrit translation. Benediction, good speech. Ashirvad, good speech. But if we have good quality, then actually speech becomes so powerful. And this is something that Nanda Maharaj says in the 10th canto, chapter 7, number 13. I think it's Nanda Maharaj. Yesya nirta dhambhersha himksamana vivarjita natesham satyashilanam ashisha vipalakritaha. When brahmanas are free from envy, untruthfulness, unnecessary pride, grudges, disturbance by the opulence of others, and false prestige, then their blessings never go in vain. So he's saying ashisha, like that's the prerequisite to make one's speech, their ashirvad, effective, not vimoga, as is being described in this Bhagavatam verse today, where it's useless. But imagine to have speech which never goes in vain and which can really affect the environment and affect the people who hear. Well, one has to be free from envy, untruthfulness, unnecessary pride, grudges, and disturbance by the opulence of others, and false prestige. And then there's power in those words. Probably all of us have met someone who is like that. They just have such purity that when they speak, it's like, oh, now I get it. I heard it 100 times, but when you said it, suddenly it's effective. So there is real power. That power is obviously not so common these days, but that's why in previous times, people would seek the blessings of great sages, of devotees, of the brahmanas, because they knew if their hearts are pure, if they simply say something, it can have a powerful effect to cure disease, to create wealth, to produce particular political outcome, and most importantly, to inspire someone in bhakti, in Krishna consciousness. Really, the whole science of yajna, doing the havan and all the different mantras is just that. If the intention is pure, free from envy, through the Lord, then it can produce real outcomes, auspicious outcomes, creating an auspicious marriage, or creating the union between the guru and disciple very nicely. Or, I mean, you can do these sort of yagyas and chant for any purpose. I used to do them in Los Angeles to make some money, which was probably not the most pure, but more so was our preaching to the Russians, because the Russians in LA, they just love that stuff so much. But we made a lot of devotees doing big yagas. All these Russians would come, and I would chant all these mantras. I was taught by Rabindranath Prabhu. Those of you who've been to New Dwarka in Los Angeles, you'll know Rabindranath Prabhu. And he taught me how to do these yagyas because he knew it was good preaching, especially to these Russian communities. And I said, Prabhu, what if I make mistakes? I said, is it going to have some terrible effect in the environment? He said, no, Krishna understands. And then he said, it's like when you're playing in an orchestra and you're playing the flute or the clarinet or something. He says, you can make a mistake and only you'll hear it. But if you do it twice, then the person next to you is going to hear it. If you do it more than that, then soon the whole audience is going to hear it. So we should take those rituals very seriously, actually, because they can have serious effects, especially if it's chanted with pure intention, as is being said by Nanda Maharaj. So let's think about our words. Do we want our words to be vimogaha, futile, right? Like rough words cast by insignificant persons? Do we want futile speech, just wasting our breath? Or do we want ashisho vipalakrita, to have our speech never go in vain and to be really effective and powerful? So that depends on our purity and our intention. There's a real science there. It's a real powerful effect. It's possible. And so we must practice the austerity of speech, which is described by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Everybody knows, right? Everybody knows. It's in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 17, text number 15. Anudvega karam vakyam satyam priya hitam chaya swadhyaya bhyasanam chaiva vanmayam tapa uchate. Let's consider practicing austerity of speech. Purify the speech. Krishna is saying we have to speak words which are truthful, pleasing, beneficial. This is interesting. Truthful, obviously, satyam. Priya hitam. You should be able to say something, not just speak the truth, but say it in a nice way. That's the austerity. You know? Nowadays, we're like, they'll say, well, I'm just saying the truth. I'm just saying the truth, that you're a jerk. I'm just telling you the truth. And we think that that's really brilliant. But according to Krishna, austerity of speech is not just to be truthful, but priya hitam should be said very nicely, with affection. And priya means with affection, and hitam, it should actually be beneficial. It's not always beneficial to tell somebody the truth. And it's not necessarily our responsibility to tell somebody the truth if it's not going to benefit them. As Prabhupada says in this very important purport, I'm just going to read the purport. I'm just going to read the verse in purport, okay? And then comment, because I love this. Austerity of speech consists in speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, and not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literature. Srila Prabhupada comments, one should not speak in such a way as to agitate the minds of others. Of course, when a teacher speaks, he can speak the truth for the instruction of his students. But such a teacher should not speak to those who are not his students, if he will agitate their minds. This is penance as far as talking is concerned. Besides that, one should not talk nonsense. The process of speaking in spiritual circles is to say something upheld by the scriptures. One should at once quote from scriptural authority to back up what he is saying. At the same time, such talk should be very pleasurable to the ear. By such discussions, one may derive the highest benefit and elevate human society. There's a limitless stock of Vedic literature, and one should study this. This is called penance of speech. This is very interesting. We're meant to practice austerity. It is the purpose of our human life, tapasya, right? Vanmayam tapa uchite. And the austerity, the tapasya of speech, is to speak the truth, but to someone to whom it actually benefits. And if someone is not willing to hear, if they are not a student, if you are not the teacher, then you should not speak the truth to them. That's what Srila Prabhupada says here. One should not speak in such a way as to agitate the minds of others. Of course, when a teacher speaks, he can speak the truth for the instruction of his students, but such a teacher should not speak to those who are not his students if he will agitate their minds. This is penance as far as talking is concerned. So I think this is a very interesting instruction, especially because we are in a community, which is such a wonderful thing. We have so much in common in our community. But there's sometimes the tendency to shoot those word arrows, right? Girbhana, is that the word? We shoot our words like arrows and sometimes pierce the hearts of other devotees and create pain and suffering and actually even destroy some person's faith. So we should be very careful and practice this austerity of speech and consider, does this person see me as someone who can tell them the truth? This is taking for granted that we even know what the truth is, of course. That's a whole other thing. But if we have, if there's some real important truth to share, does this person see me as someone who can tell them that? Priya hitam. And can I speak it in such a way that is dear and helpful and beneficial to them? And svadhyaya abhyasanam. Can I speak it with the authority of scriptural reference? As Prabhupada says, if you're speaking in spiritual circles, you should quote from scriptural authority. Not for some sort of domination, like you have to do it because I quoted the scripture. That is not effective. But to really lend authenticity to that knowledge. If we all made such a practice of speaking, wow, then as Prabhupada is saying, one derives the highest benefit and elevates human society. It's such a simple thing, speaking, but we take for granted and don't think about practicing that austerity and making that speech really beneficial. Otherwise, we become like what's described in this verse, vimogaha, futile, wasted words, like a vulture saying to a cow, I hope you die so I can eat you. It's just useless. It's useless. Garbage. What else to say about speech? I guess that's all I have to say about speech. The great French philosopher Pascal said that if not spoken eloquently, words not spoken eloquently transform a painting into a picture. He said something like that. Should also be eloquent, because if you just go on too much, then it's no longer a beautiful painting. Now it's like a descriptive picture. So I'll stop there. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions or comments about the austerity of speech, how we can cultivate nice habits of speaking nicely with devotees, speaking nicely to non-devotees? Even they deserve to be spoken to very nicely. No comments? Is my microphone on? Oh, it is? Okay. Well then,
Hi, Krishna Prabhu, I have a comment or a question, actually.
Haribol, Madhupan Lila, Guru
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna. Haribol. So I was just wondering on this, I had two questions from your class, but I don't know if I'll remember both of them. Um, on this topic of speech, and you were saying how if we're not in a position where the person will see us as like a teacher, or if, we're not sure if we can say it eloquently enough to not offend the other person. But since we do live in a community aspect, oftentimes I notice, at least with myself, there's this sort of mood of familiarity, which can breed contempt or can breed like the sort of mindset of, oh, we're all family anyways, you know I love you, so I'll just blast you and it's fine, sort of thing. So if there's a conflict, then how do you address it with somebody who might be like quite senior to you, or who doesn't see you in that mood of like teacher? Is it better to just like not bring it up, or maybe to tell someone else who they do see as like a senior, or they will listen to? I'm just wondering if you could share on that. And I had another question, but I'll ask it later.
I think that we should pray to Krishna because there's no formula really. I mean, yes, as I'm sure you've heard, you already know the answer is that yeah, we should, go to someone else who's also an advanced Vaishnava and ask them, maybe could you perhaps speak with this devotee because we're having this conflict or something. Certainly that is a formulaic approach and it is important and we should do that. But also, the devotees, they're not machines and we have to pray to Krishna. I pray to Krishna all the time. Please help me to relate to your parts and parcels. Please help me to understand and not assume that I'm so smart that I automatically understand what this person means when they say this or when they do that. And the Lord can give ability, I believe, to have more insight into understanding a person. And if we're humble, we ask someone, "Dear Prabhu, I'm really trying to understand you. Please help me." Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't want to open their heart and share? So both things are there. To quote our fearless leader, both things are there. We should, yes, approach a senior devotee, but also pray to Krishna. Help me to connect. Help me to be sensitive. Please give me some of that ability, Because there's nothing better than associating with Vaishnavas and to be able to communicate with them and to share inspiration, to share devotional service, to share love of Krishna is really just the most wonderful thing. It's like a sport, as our Gurudev would say. It's like a sport to express love of Krishna to the devotees, to express appreciation of the devotees. He said it's like when you're playing soccer, you're trying to dodge the midfielder and then I don't actually know soccer positions. Anyway, you're running down the field, you're dodging this thing, dodging that thing. Because naturally any devotee doesn't want to be glorified. They don't want to be praised. But you find ways to kind of like get around and say something nice about them, encourage them in their service. Also, my personal experience is that if we just focus more on saying nice things full of praise, then all the other things, the little conflicts, they kind of work themselves out. I think we should have at least 10 times more words of praise and affection and appreciation than we do words of, conflict. I think there should be a 10-to-1 ratio. And I find that it kind of just works out. Hare Krishna. Oh, there's a quote from Devaki Preeti in the chat that must be relevant. She says, it's from Bhakti Bhava by Gurudev. Their remembrance of Vrindavan intensifying. Oh my God. Sorry, I'm a little sick. I can't even speak. Their remembrance of Vrindavana intensifying, they began to praise the bhakti. Here we have one of the great sports of bhakti, glorifying other devotees, emotional expression at its best. So, pray to Krishna. Show me how I can glorify this devotee. The other conflict things, they work themselves out. Show me how I can really glorify this devotee, really express appreciation for what they do. Yeah, when you're in the ashram or when you're with the devotees 24/7, yeah, the familiarity can kick in. You know what I used to do in the brahmacharya ashram is I literally kept a book and I wrote down every devotee's names and all the things that I really appreciate about them, so that I remember. And so I wouldn't be thinking about how that one Prabhu would always take my kopans. We literally shared our kopans in the brahmacharya ashram in New Zealand. Or, how this one devotee doesn't play the mridanga the way that I like it, or whatever. It's just like so many stupid, petty things. I'm talking about myself, not you. But for me, it was a lot of stupid, petty things that I would just be thinking about these devotees. And I was tired of having that attitude towards them. So I literally got a little book and I wrote down all the things that I like them. And the list would just keep going and going and going. And then, it just gave me so much fuel to express appreciation for them. Dear Prabhu, I just love the way that you fold your dhoti. The lines of your folds of your dhoti just looks absolutely fantastic, flowing like the breeze. Or dear Prabhu, when you sing in kirtan, you hit those high notes. It just makes my heart race. It's just so nice. It's so much fun. If we're a little shy, you can text people. We're so fortunate we have this technology. If we're a little shy to get up in someone's face, we can text them. But this is the juicy nectar of life. It's just, saying wonderful things about devotees, because each devotee is like a mine full of great gems. And we can dig in there and add to our own assets. Little Madhava woke up. I should probably go do something. I hope that's somewhat insightful. You probably shouldn't listen to me, though, because I'm kind of crazy. Anybody else questions or comments? Oh, okay. Well, then we're all in agreement. Thank you, devotees, again to Srimad Bhagavatam class. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanand Hari Hari Bo, and Akadashi Vrata ki jai. Today's Akadashi. Have a wonderful austerity. It's the mother of devotion, apparently. Although I'm personally a little more inclined towards Dwadasi. But because it's a mother of devotion, I'm going to go for it. Hare Krishna.